You're only a loser if you don't learn from your mistakes. That's how we are going to start Picks and Pizza this week. I'm Joe Giglio, joined by Josh Goodson, RTP Mortgages. Josh Goodson, give you a free plug here to start.
First one's always free, right?
Give him the first taste for free. Listen, we lost both of our best bets last week. We started the college football season. I started with a loss with New Mexico State and UMass. UMass has 15 Power 5 transfers. Who knew?
Have you researched any of that since then? Have you gone down at I'm going to ask you this in a little bit, what UConn's roster looks like, because it could be a very similar type.
Let's make sure we don't make the same mistakes, and that's fine. I'm okay with losing the first game of the year. It's probably not a great sign. I'm okay with losing the first game of the year if it means we learn from it. So you had Vanderbilt, who was in a fight with Hawaii in the first half.
They were covering in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they came out in the second half. They really started to assert themselves. I'm just going to say this. I knew New Mexico State was dead when one of Clemson's former quarterbacks was their quarterback for UMass. Done. And I texted you, and I even tweeted, I said, take UMass on the live line right now. Because we've seen this in college basketball. It's going to be interesting to see how it applies to college football. Sure. But in college basketball, we've seen guys from like Drexel and Lehigh and Radford come to the ACC and be successful, right? For the most part, without saying Jack Chambers' name, when a guy comes up and tries to play in the ACC, doesn't go great.
Right.
Doesn't go great. But you go the other way. If Clemson's, backup shows up and he also stopped at Georgia Tech. If he shows up at UMass, yeah, I got news for you. That guy, and Ralph Russo, AP writer, tweeted this. He's like, yeah, he looks like a transfer from Clemson who was dropped into a UMass uniform and is now playing New Mexico State and is running roughshod all over them.
The fastest guy on the field.
Yeah, it was an immediate, oh, shit, I made a mistake. Immediate. And that's where, kids, on this gambling podcast, I will say to you, the live line will come in handy.
Yes.
In this particular instance, we're still in the state of North Carolina. We're waiting for January for it to be legalized here. In this particular instance, I had already placed the bet. I call those pre-flop bets. Made it with Bennett Johnson, who's going to join us in a little bit. Made that bet, and there's no way to change it. You own it, you eat it, you move on. Yours was a little bit different, but something interesting happened from that Hawaii Vanderbilt game. And that was this. Now, Hawaii scored twice in the fourth quarter. We call those backdoor covers if you're completely new to gambling, right? And you said Vandy's favored by 17.5. They're covering and you're feeling good.
Yeah.
You think if they had just kind of, foot on the neck, it's over. Instead, Hawaii scored 2 scores in the fourth quarter, I believe in the final 8 minutes to cover. And now you're going, well, maybe that's just bad luck. Maybe that's bad coaching. Here's Tim Chang from Hawaii, okay? Their coach, who used to be their outstanding quarterback. This is a quote from he was on Visid, which is a gambling site. The quote, I pay attention. We're 17.5 point underdogs, and the line is moving to 18, as well as 3.5 wins, which will be their season total. I tell the guys, this is what they think of us as a team.
Yeah.
Are you okay? I'm down with Tim Chang being like, you know what? Let's do it.
Not only did he know the point spread, he gave the terms, the line is moving to 18. Like, he went like degenerate style, where we know what that is. We know what that or if anything, I was surprised he didn't go the next layer and says, looks like the money's coming in on the other side, but just the fact that he used the terminology, the line's moving, I'm in on coaches doing that. And I don't know why coaches don't talk about it more often. We forget we deal with college kids, and college kids, anything can motivate them. A girlfriend can motivate them, or on the flip side, if he had a bad night with a girlfriend, he's going to come out and not be good. If you tell people that you stink, what are they going to do? They're probably going to fight for you. And if you talk about it openly, I'm surprised more coaches don't talk about it more openly, to be honest with you, from a motivation standpoint, and also coaches just being aware of, like, screw that. Like, if we're not going to win, we're going to win in the checkbook, and we're going to screw some people who took Vandy.
So that was my next question for you. How close do you think we are as more and more states legalize gambling, and it becomes more and more normalized? And we've come so far, and even the last 10 years, never mind the last 30 years, right? Used to be taboo. Poor Jimmy the Greek was hired to talk about gambling on the CBS NFL show, but couldn't talk about gambling. But he would make his predictions in a very calculated way, though. So shouts to the true legend there. How close do you think we are to a fan base? Let's just use NC State as an example. Okay. Yeah. Dave Dory goes 8-4 for the rest of his life against straight up goes 8-4 the rest of his life, sure. But goes 12-0, 11-1, 10-2 ATS. Are you, as someone who gambles and is an NC State fan, like, hey, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Part of me would say yes. A lot of State fans would not like that, because there's a lot of State fans who are in the emotional hedge part of the conversation, that they'll like our friend Chung is classic for this. It's like, hey,
he lost so much money this basketball season and he was happy about it.
I'm going to do my job today. I'm going to take UConn 14.5 this week. That way I'm all right. Like, if I lose money because UConn covers, or if I win money because UConn covers, or if I lose money because State comes out and wins by 40, great. Like, I could see it on the other end where coaches, like some fan bases, would be like, "Come on, man! Like, win some games." But yeah, it will be something to track that that more fans will probably become more aware of, for sure.
So you and I know all the things about gambling.
Yeah.
Do you know who doesn't? Our friend Bennett Johnson. So Bennett was in Michigan last week.
Well, he just doesn't know how technology, I think. Right? Or is it the actual function of what you were trying to get him to do?
No, he sometimes we forget. And I think that's part of this podcast, is we're trying to educate people for real. I mean, part of this podcast is for me to get a sponsorship with FanDuel, right? Or DraftKings or whoever. But a big part of this podcast is like, hey, we're going to start gambling in North Carolina legally, and this is how people are going to handle it. And here's some terminology that people aren't familiar with. And here's how you place a bet that some people aren't familiar with. But I want to bring Bennett on, our friend Bennett Johnson from the Heister Automotive Group. There he is. He knows I'm about to slander him. And so before I do that, I just, first of all, thank you for getting my action in for me, even though I knew it was doomed from the start. But I was just saying to people, like, Josh and I, and apparently Timmy Chang, understand gambling terminology and how things work. But that you got a little bit of an education on your trip to play in the Ally Invitational Pro-Am, didn't you?
Yeah, it's I could have got slandered to death. So thank you for lightly wording the errors that we're getting ready to talk about. But it is interesting because obviously lifetime sports fan, lifetime following Vegas lines, and never, honest truth, have never placed a real bet in Vegas through a friend of a friend, through an app, nothing. So like you're talking about, you're like, hey man, you're in Michigan, it's legal there, jump on FanDuel, and you start sending me bets. And when you start going to place the bets as someone who's never done that, and you're getting ready to push the button to send $100 or a $50 or a $20 bet, you're like, wait a minute, do I really know what I'm doing? And all of those numbers.
It's not my money I'm playing with.
It's not like all the fake money that I've been winning on picks and pieces. It's real dollars. So you want to feel confident, which I think is great for you and Josh to educate your viewers.
Yeah.
Is when you're getting ready to place this bet at $50 or $100, what am I really gambling on? Am I saying I want this team to score a lot of points? I want this team to win by a certain amount, or like what you were just talking about, the NC State line, I think it's 14.5. Hey, of course, if I'm an NC State fan, I want them to just win by 1 point. Well, if you're betting on NC State, you want them to win by 15 or more points. So just that little bit of discrepancy can be difficult if you've never actually placed bets. And obviously, come January, a lot of people in North Carolina will be in that same boat.
Do you want me to tell Josh the mistake that you made?
You can tell everybody the mistake.
Okay. So Josh, when I told Bennett to put money on the New Mexico State, I tailed you on Vandy too.
Yeah.
110 to win 100. He bet to win 110. And then when I was trying to like play a little sprinkle golf action, he's like, "You don't have any money left." I'm like, "I don't. The math is not working here, Bennett." He's like, "Oh, I thought it was weird that you were trying to win $110."
It's called the juice, baby. It's called the juice.
The juice. The juice is definitely loose. All right. Well, you also, Bennett, are joining us because this is a very important gambling point. Why do we overthink things? Let's review. On the Champions Tour, you went and played in a pro-am. And we kind of said, like, well, who's your partner? And your partner was?
VJ.
VJ Singh. And we were like, well, let's just take VJ. Let's take a scratcher. He was what, 38-1, 35-1?
I think at the time, Goodson
38-1. No, I think I've got the text message.
Yeah, Goodson has a receipt of a 38-1.
We said how
VJ last week, Bennett, and you said Bernhard Longer to win the Ally. And Josh was like, wait, let's just take your guy.
38-1 is just a ridiculous. That's a good number. That's a good pre-flop like Champions Tour number, and I believe this is what Bennett said. Marco Mira says, "Do not take VJ this week. Don't take VJ, even though he's won 3 times here before. Don't overthink it, Bennett."
That was a direct quote on the 9th tee box there at Warwick Hills in Grand Blanc, Michigan. And really, let's circle back to the plus 3,800. So if you're new to gambling and you see that number, you're like, okay, if you didn't know VJ Singh and you weren't golf fans like we were, you would think, okay, that guy has no chance to win. But he on tour has been playing. He told me verbatim, I've been playing terrible. I've had putting problems. I can't make putts. I'm getting on the green, but I just can't make enough birdies to compete with the guys that are birdieing. But if you look at just that number, all you would see is, hey, here's a guy that's not playing good on tour. But if you know golf and you know how to gamble, you might investigate and do a little homework like Giglio did not do for his college football week.
Correct. You were working on our homework this week. We're trying to learn from our mistakes, Ben.
So if you do a little bit of homework, you think, okay, so let's talk about VJ Singh and let's talk about the conditions of that course. So first of all, I played with the guy. I'm watching him hit 310, 320-yard drives. I watched him hit every green, and he felt so comfortable on those greens during the Pro-Am, he didn't even putt out every putt. Actually, and what he was doing was he knew where the holes would be, and they actually traditionally are pre-marked holes. If you've ever been to a PGA Tour event during the practice rounds, they'll have dots on the green where the holes will be, and it'll be color coordinated. Like yellow will be, hey, here's Thursday's pin. Red will be Friday's pin. Purple will be Sunday, so on and so forth. So he's played there. I can't remember how many times. I think he said he's played 15 or 16 professional events there. So he knows those greens. So all he did was he was hitting what he thought would be, hey, this will be my Friday shot. Hey, I need to hit it actually front left, even though the pin's in the back
You're
right.
making Josh more mad right now. You should probably just stop now.
So
he's good. Course knowledge, bombs it, wet conditions. So no, like you got Bernhard Longer out there who's none of those Jerry Kellys are hitting at 220 and not getting any rollout over there. So you're going to tell me now that VJ was primed to win, even though you told us that.
I can tell you right now that on Sunday when I was watching the last 8 holes of that event, I was thinking, oh my goodness, how did we not just bury the mortgage on VJ to win? It was so obvious because he's a great iron player. He knew the greens, and he's the only player in the event that could carry at 320.
Occam's razor, man. It's great. It's a great tool to use in gambling. The most obvious answer, the easiest answer is the answer. Bennett, I'm glad we learned this lesson together, though, and I appreciate you. And get some quick love in there for the Heister Automotive Group. Get off Keister, get down to Heister. Go check out Bennett. He's got something for you, right?
Yeah, come down and see us. We're excited about the fall. Fall's a good time. We got a lot of people that love to go tailgate at all the, not just NC State, but we got tons of Carolina customers, tons of Duke customers. They do tailgate at Wallace Wade. Tons of our good friends down in Greenville. We got the best way to do it. If you've never tailgated with a nice big SUV like a Wagoneer, Suburban, or a Silverado, is awesome. Pull up, plenty of room for your friends, hang out. If you're going to Greenville, good luck. God bless you.
You got a road race coming up too, right?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Giglio. So
Yeah.
October 14th at Fuquay Marina High School, we have the Heister Cares Foundation annual 5K. Last year, we raised about $80,000 for a great cause called the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Basically, what this group does is they pay the local salaries for the individuals who will take your call if you're in an unfortunate situation and feel like you need to speak to someone urgently. You can dial a star 3-digit number. One of these wonderful people will pick up. This foundation pays those salaries. So this year we're hoping to raise $100,000. Every dollar that we get goes right to them. We cover all the expenses. We're lucky that John's a very charitable person, wants to cover all the expenses. So all that money goes right to them. So it's October 14th, Fuquay Marina High School. I'll give you a different website. I usually say HeisterAutomotive.com. Today, go to HeisterCares.com, HIESTER, the word cares.com. You can sign up, donate. It's really, really fun. Last year, we had like 150 racers. We're hoping for over 200 this year. And spots are going quick, so jump online and register for our race.
All right. Bennett Johnson, appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll get you educated before January. Don't worry. Just stick with us.
All right. Happy betting in week 1, boys.
Thank you. Go Pirates. That was the other bet that that Bennett got down for me this week. ECU plus 35.5. So I got it over the hook there. So I was happy about that. So let's get into some bets. I want to get into some bets this week on building on that lesson. Let's stick with what we know. Let's get a bet from the State-UConn game, which is Thursday. You're headed up to Hartford tonight. Yep. You'll be there tomorrow for the game. Let's get something to take on the Carolina game down in Charlotte. And let's get something for Monday's trip from Clemson to Durham, Clemson at Duke. And then we'll do this each week. We'll do once a week. We'll do one best bet, right? So we're starting the year 0-1. You see it on the screen here. I'm flashing it. You have it. And we're not going to be one of those podcast gambling shows that doesn't include our record. We will definitely do that. Remember, we both have money, though, carried over from the golf season. So that's good. It's okay to lose one football bet at one unit, which is a standard $100 bet. We're okay with that. But at some point, you want to win some of these bets. So let's do that this week. Let's get into those games. Then we'll get to our best bet. But first, I've already mentioned it. We have a new sponsor this week. Look at that. RTP Mortgage. That's you. That's Josh Goodson. What matters here, Josh? Tell me what matters. Tell me what you need people to do. Because
phone number. The biggest
an MLS number there. I feel like legally I'm supposed to say that, but
well, you're supposed to say it in like really fast like
at the end,
right?
Okay.
NMLS, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, exactly. Phone number 252 Eastern North Carolina area code. If you're like, where is that from? Obviously, Eastern North Carolina. 252-361-1415. If you're buying a house, you need a mortgage. Realtors get all the fun part of the home process, right? They get to show you the fancy pool, the nice stove, the bonus room. You got to get the debt from somebody. You got to get the mortgage from somebody. That's me. I take care of people here locally. Reach out, give me a call, shoot me a DM on Twitter, whatever's easiest for you, and we'll help you out.
All right. Again, that's rtpmortgage.com for those not watching on the YouTubes. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or the Googles, appreciate you. Make sure you're following, download, subscribe, all those good things. 5 stars only. But so let's talk just for one more second here about this market, Josh, because I know it's tough right now. But
yeah,
that doesn't mean you just as I say on the OG about Copiers Plus, like you don't know what you don't know. So you should really know your options. And if you're thinking about refinancing, if you're thinking about ways to get money out of your number one investment, which is your home, you really should reach out to Josh Goodson, RTP Mortgage. Again, that number is 252-361-1415, or do the smart thing, go to rtpmortgage.com. All right, let's get into these games this week. You're listening to Picks and Pizza. I'm Joe Giglio, joined by Josh Goodson, RTP Mortgage. He is a Carolina grad who is a State fan. He's married to an ECU grad. So you got everything covered. And I think that's an important lesson to learn this week after I lost money on New Mexico State. Let's just stick to the rivers and lakes that we're used to here.
Yeah.
And I think for this, we're hyper local. So I want to go through our local teams, State, Carolina, Duke. Let's get one bet from each game. It's okay if we duplicate that bet. It's perfectly fine to have a consensus. But let's start with the State game Thursday night at UConn. NC State beat UConn last 7:30. You're going to be there in person. This game's at East Hartford. It's in the middle of like an airfield. UConn has no discernible home field advantage. So that's important to kind of understand and know. There probably will be a decent patch of red there as well, so that you don't have to worry about any of that. I am curious. The number for this game is 14.5. Without giving away my answer, I don't love that number. Total is 46.5. So total, if you're unfamiliar, so 14.5. Again, while we're educating, means NC State needs to win by 15 points or more for you to win the bet. If NC State wins by 7, no good. NC State wins by 14, no good. That means you lost by the hook.
You did not cover.
You did not cover. You need to win by 15 or more for you to win your bet. Total 46.5 means you need more. You either go over, which you believe there'll be 47 points scored between the two teams, or the total points scored, or you believe there'll be under 46 points scored. I have a play on that involves the total, but I'm going to let you go first for this game since you'll be there. And since this is NC State, I should also qualify. I do not bet on NC State. I have not bet on NC State since I lost a large sum of money on the NC State Vanderbilt NCAA tournament game in 2005. Was it 4? It was 4.
Yeah. I'm not going to overthink this.
Okay.
Do you remember last year when State went down to Greenville? I think that number was 10.
Yes.
It was like 10 or so, right? And the only thing that anyone can remember from that game is obviously the end. And I'm not saying you shouldn't remember that, but the end, East Carolina missed the field goal. Some would say they should have won the game, right?
Sure.
We know what happened. I also was there for the whole game, and if you were there for the whole game and for 3/4 of it, State dominated. They were up by 14 at half, and then sat on it in the second half and basically allowed ECU to come back into it. And ECU's a team that's not going to quit against NC State, okay? You're not going to have that issue with UConn. UConn does not – they'll get up for the game, but there's not the deep hatred of the game. State's defense is better this year. And I don't think you go get a guy like Robert and I and Brennan Armstrong without some semblance of like, we can't do what we did last year.
Wait, did you just say State's defense is better this year?
Listen to Tony Gibson. Better defensive line. He's thinking they could be better than they were last year.
Okay.
So even if they're not, they're still going to be very good. They are going to be a very good.
That'll be the strength of the team. Yes.
They'll be the best unit on the field Thursday night. I don't think you go get Robert and I and Brennan Armstrong without learning your lesson of last year of, hey, we can't just go get 20 points and then hope the other team doesn't get 21.
Right.
Like we need to, you make those changes and try to get a little bit more dynamic and aggressive so you can take the pressure off of your defense.
Yeah, NC State ranked 94th nationally in scoring last year. They were abysmal.
I don't love the number. Like, of course, if it was 13.5, feels like that's like bring it to me. But I'm going to lay State with the 14.5. It's maybe, I'll say this, it's slight tinge of a homer pick, but I trust the defense. I don't know how UConn's going to score. And I think State's going to go out there and try to get things going. And I don't think they're going to try to hide and put stuff, not put stuff on tape for Notre Dame next week because they need to get going. They need to be ready for Notre Dame. They need to have the juices flowing, as the Gottman would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think NC State's defense is the best unit on the field. That's why I'm going to bet on NC State's defense. UConn's team total is 15.5. I'm going to take UConn's under of their team total, under 15.5 for this game, because I think that's the safest play to make. I think State wins. I don't think they cover the 2 total touchdowns, more than the 2 touchdowns. Let's go to the game that's down in Charlotte, South Carolina versus North Carolina. South Carolina's been in this game seemingly 12 times in the last 20 years, and they've won it 12 times in the last 20 years, whether it's State, whether it's ECU, whether it's UNC. This is a game the Gamecocks show out for. So I'm going to make my pick first, and I'm taking South Carolina on the money line. If there's 2 ways to bet, obviously you can bet against the spread, or you can bet on the money line. South Carolina is a small favorite. just plus 115, meaning if you bet $100, you win 115. So I'm taking South Carolina on the money line to win this game. It's not that I don't think Carolina's any good. I think they are. I think their offense is going to be really good. I think this is just the difference between the SEC and the ACC. And I think South Carolina wins this game.
I like that play. I'm taking the over. 64.5.
It's a big number.
It's a big number, but I don't care. Like Drake May's really good. Like
He
really,
is.
really, really
Excellent.
good. And I think that they're gonna still be fine on offense, and they'll be able to get enough. I guess is what I'm getting at.
All right, let's get to Duke and Clemson. Clemson comes to the Triangle Monday night. They'll be in Durham, one of those national spotlight games. Duke surprised everyone last year in Mike Elko's first year. They won 9 games. Super impressive. They have many of their same starters back from the offensive line. They have Reilly Leonard, their outstanding quarterback, back, and he is the type of quarterback that you need to have, i.e. someone who can run, who can beat Clemson. The number in this game is 13, Josh. I'll let you make the first pick on this one.
Clemson's defense is going to be the best unit on the field. Duke cannot imitate Clemson's defense in practice. And they didn't see it at all last year either. That's part of the other thing with their schedule. They didn't see a fast, athletic defense, that a team that was just so much more superior talent-wise. Don't overthink it. Will Shipley back in North Carolina, I think he's going to run all over them. I like Clemson, to cover, lay the 13. There's going to be more Clemson fans there than Duke fans. Yep. It's a Monday night. When Clemson's bigger, faster, stronger, better team, rarely do they run into these upset scenarios for the most part.
I think everyone's going to look back at the last 2 years and regret not getting Clemson while they were down.
Yeah.
Dabo Swinney is stubborn, and he still really hasn't gone into the portal and made the moves that you need to make now in 2023. But he did go and get an offensive coordinator in Garrett Reilly. And the last time he did this, he went and got Chad Morris. It completely changed the trajectory of Clemson football. After the last 2 years of not having good, innovative play calling, I think you're going to see a world of difference from Clemson's offense. I don't think they're going to embarrass Duke, but I do see them winning this game by 3 scores. And I do think they'll cover the number. So we are in agreement here. Clemson minus 13. All right, I feel better now. I do feel better. But let's get a best bet. Let's get a best bet because we can't resist the rest of the card, right? We could sit here and claim we have discipline, which is important. Knowing your limits, losing what you can afford to lose is an important lesson to know before you get into sports gambling. But you can't resist the rest of the cards. Let's pick one. Let's call this our lock, our RTP Mortgage lock of the week, if you will. Lock it in. Lock in that rate at rtpmortgage.com. I'm gonna let you pick first because I think we have different games here.
I'm gonna give you a play high noon Saturday. You're gonna get a win early.
Start your day the right way.
That's always a good feeling too. Don't overthink it. Who are you saying it might be the worst team in the ACC?
I'd be surprised if Virginia wins more than one football game this year. Yes.
Talent deficient. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They're going to be bad. You know who they open with on Saturday?
They open at Tennessee, who does have a significant home field advantage and a significant talent advantage.
Huge talent advantage. That offense beat Alabama last year. If you beat Alabama, then you also Tennessee beat Clemson bad too, right? In the Orange Bowl,
with a different quarterback. Yeah, with the one who's going to start opening night.
Going to start. Clemson is not. Tennessee is not going to skip a beat. The number's 28. The number is that big for a reason. You don't often see a number that big between 2 Power 5 teams. You just don't see it. Playing, major Power 5 teams. 28 Tennessee, and I'll give the people at home a little bit of more advice. Take a Tennessee sampler. You're like, Josh, what is that? Is that a gambling term? No, it's just something I kind of made up. But the sampler is I want you to get a little bit of everything. Any Tennessee related bet you can play, bet it.
So first quarter
Tennessee, first half, and team totals. This probably the way the lines are and the number is Tennessee's team total is probably 42. I think they're going to hang 50 on Virginia. They have it probably one of the best offenses in the country. Virginia does not have the talent, the speed, athleticism. Don't overthink it. 28, lock it in. Rocky Top.
All right. For my best bet, I'm going to try to apply a lesson that we've learned.
Okay.
First of all, I like ECU. And I don't know, this is just tangential. I get it. I like ECU. The number's at 36 now. I understand what Michigan is. I also just know ECU is a team that fights. Straight up, that's a team that fights. So give me all those points. I'm intrigued all of a sudden by UMass at Auburn. But to your point, maybe it's just New Mexico State stinks. Maybe we should just you know what? Sometimes you lose a bet and you realize, you know what? I can just watch. I don't need to play this one, right? Yes. I am intrigued by UMass, but this is one you just take a pass because you don't really know. What we do know, though, is Tim Beck is not a creative play caller. He's in a situation now at Coastal Carolina where they had success and they probably liked their previous coach and they have a quarterback back. And I know all of those things. There's a transition, though, there that we've seen sometimes with a first-year guy who is not replacing somebody who was fired, right? Coastal Carolina's coach went to Liberty. So this wasn't like a situation where, you know, Tom O'Brien's coming in for 3-win Chuck Amato or Dave Doran's coming in. And, you know, actually, this might be a Dave Doran case where you're coming in replacing a guy who the players actually like, but the administration was like, I'm not so sure about this guy. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is not all transitions in first years are clean. This is Coastal Carolina going out to UCLA. This is this is Chip Kelly, considered the father of modern spread offense, versus Tim Beck. So
I like it.
I hate to fade the guy and just disrespect him the way that I am right now, but I'm going Chip Kelly minus 14.5 at home, even though they don't have a great home field advantage. I think UCLA's got more talent. I think Chip Kelly's a better coach. I think I'm going to lay the points with UCLA.
I like it.
New feature alert. Reilly Dunn, Groove Wagon, fantasy guru, gambling guru.
Lofty title. I like that.
Makes total sense for you. You've joined us each week the last 2 weeks on the OG podcast, so we appreciate you for that. But this feels like a real, pardon the pun here, groove.
Yeah, start to get into it. Yep.
So I'm going to have you on each week. One of your specialties is daily fantasy.
Yeah, I do consider myself something of a daily specialist.
Okay. And quite frankly, I don't know jack shit about daily fantasy. So I find that that's a niche. And I've already had people, and I'm not trying to pump your tires here. I've already had people reach out to me.
You feel free to pump the tires, man.
I've already had people reach out to me like this guy is like, who is this guy? Like, he's like super smart. Like, where did you find this guy? Like, he knows what he's talking about. And then I've had other people like, I don't care about fantasy, but that guy is interesting as hell. And I'm like, yeah. Do you know, like, I could find a cheesesteak. I can find a good pizza place. I could find the right CBD seltzers. I could find people who are interesting to talk about gambling, talk about fantasy sports. So that'll be your groove, right? Not to pigeonhole you, but that's a thing I know nothing about, and I'm interested in sharing with our audience because I do think, and you're a little bit younger. So I'm 48. You're a little bit younger. I do think there are people your age who are totally into that.
Yeah.
Again, not my wheelhouse. So I'm awesome to have you for that, and I appreciate you for that.
I love being here. Cannot say enough good things about this. You hit me up anytime. In addition to being something of a sharp, you know, I love the sound of my own voice.
Sure.
So feel free to
these are all good things.
Hit me up anytime you want. And I want to hear how your draft turned out because I want everybody in the viewing audience to know your boy did not text the king to get some notions in place. You're raw dogging it. Let's see what happened. I want to know how this turned out.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. I am a person in gambling that I do not do well when I tail other people.
Okay.
Like, you could show me your record and you'd be like, I've won 78% of my bets.
Classic tout stuff.
And I will take 2 of your 3 bets and I will pick 2 of the 3 losers.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the other guy will come back and say, well, you didn't take all of them. And this is the system. You got to play the system. I don't like riding other people's coattails. I struggle with that. The second part of that is I enjoy immensely being right. So while this is I'm down to 1 fantasy league. I'm only in 1 league. So there's money involved. Yes, that is important to me. But being right is more important to me than winning. Does that make any sense?
It completely makes sense. At some point, we'll get into the time that I spent 3 months absolutely destroying Las Vegas sports books, destroying poker, rolling all of it onto Floyd Mayweather minus 180, minus 210, somewhere in that range, won about $18,000, and ended up that night getting so drunk that the duffel bag, it was actually a Hasselblad camera bag, got stolen. And yeah, honestly,
did you get it back?
Fuck no. No. Just dead ass lost all of it. However, honestly, I don't regret it as much as you would think, because I was fucking right. And everybody and their dog was like, I don't know, I think Manny has a real chance. I was like, it's just going to be a boring ass grind out decision, the same way that every other Floyd fight in history has been. Give me the mortgage on this. And it worked. I can understand caring about being right more than the money itself. I get that.
Okay. All right. So this is the premise I'm working from, but I did ask you my first pick, and I feel like we were okay.
Oh, super okay with Jamar.
All right. So I'm in this fantasy league. There's 12 it's a 12-team league, full PPR. They just changed the scoring this year it is now basically a standard ESPN scoring league. Whereas before, the yardage was minimal. Like, it was completely disproportionate to people who caught high volume pass catchers. Okay. So Jamar Chase, my number one pick, number one overall. Okay, it's also a keeper league. Okay. Yeah. So there were some people kept, like Justin Fields. I was all on board with you with Justin Fields this year as somebody who's going to have a fantastic fantasy season. He was kept. Couldn't have him. Justin Herbert's another guy. I don't know where you fall on him, but my brother-in-law has had him now for a third straight year because he took him as an 18th round pick his rookie year.
Yeah, and actually, I quite like the prospects of the Chargers bounce back. It's a health thing with a lot of them, but having Kellen Moore, I quite like, and also Herbert just generally is a crazy talented guy, so I get that.
All right, so while we're doing this,
wait, real fast, I got to plug the Kings line because
here it comes. I'm about to pull it up.
Hold up, because a few folks have actually been written in, and on the subject of Herbert, one thing that an especially sharp gentleman I've been texting with, he was talking me through some of his auction strategy. He's really in on grabbing some of these rookie pass catchers, especially that dude Quentin down there in LA.
Johnson.
Yeah. I love that move, especially because between Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, it seems like there's always some lingering health concerns there. I just had to tout that one dude because I, quite like that move.
All right. So I'm in my league now. I take Jamar Chase and we're okay.
Sure.
You say, cool, Joe.
Yeah.
All right. For the benefit of those watching on the YouTubes, I'm going to go to the draft page and I'm going to share it here so you could see exactly where you say I go wrong. So we're okay. Chase goes one.
Yeah, sure. That's have some fun.
I get to the end of the second round, and I had all intents and purposes. I wanted DJ Moore. Instead, I go Amari Cooper over Moore in a PPR format. My theory here, just like Moore, lone target on a team. I do think Deshaun Watson's going to be better this year as long as he doesn't get himself suspended and all those other good things. If he stays out of trouble, I think Watson's going to be better. I think they'll be less Chubb dependent, and I think that equals more for Cooper. Thought process flawed? Or
I can see it. I mean, I'm always going to be thinking in terms of your alternatives there, and I hear you on it would have been a stretch to take DJ Moore there. Some of those other guys, again, you got to do the best with your hand you're dealt. This is a huge glaring example of why Snake is so frustrating.
Yes.
Like if you know that you're going to be reaching hardcore on a guy just because it's the top of the third, I get not making a pick there that maybe you wanted to do because it feels so far divorced from that draft slot. That's why, man, Snake is it's tough. It's tough. So I understand what you're doing there, though. Who did you end up with at that 3-1?
First pick, third round.
Yeah.
Now, I think you're going to tell me I should have gone quarterback here because I would have had my choice of quarterbacks other than Fields and Herbert. I went Darren Waller. I made the mistake of watching a preseason game and seeing the Giants throw every single route to Darren Waller.
Man, I don't hate it because they do seem to be targeting the heck out of him. He is probably the guy that, aside from paying up for Kelsey,
and Kelsey was gone,
yeah,
Andrews was gone. So
sure.
It's not like I took Waller over the top two options.
I get that. I'm actually kind of in if for cheapy QBs on even Danny Jones. You know, I don't even remember how to pronounce the last name, but you know, ex-Bills coach was his name.
Dable.
Dable, yeah. He seems like he's doing good things there. He might just have it like that. So I could see it for sure.
Okay.
What has gone off the board after?
Right after was Jalen Hurts. So someone breaks the quarterback seal there of the non-keepers. Goes Hurts. Then there's Najee Harris, Mahomes, Allen. So there's your quarterback run. Burrow. Now with Burrow gone, Burrow is kind of who I had in mind to stack with Chase as instructed by you.
Yeah.
So you know, we and I'm not sweating any of these guys that are gone. Here's the problem. We get to the last pick of the fourth round, which is me. 4 picks before DJ Moore goes off the board. And Moore, that's where I had targeted Moore.
Yeah. Did you look at average draft position before this?
No.
Okay. So that's on me. I should have coached you.
Because he was way down the queue. And I thought people would just be going by the queue.
So for anybody listening to this that still has drafts left to do, if you are stuck in Snake, 1, thoughts and prayers, get out next year. But 2, go use average draft position. So what you can do is go to, I like Fantasy Football Calculator. If you Google FF Calc, you'll then see average draft positions. And what you'll see there, it'll give you, you know, depending on your league type, full PPR, half point PPR, standard, it'll just show you the current across thousands and thousands of drafts, the average draft position of everybody to date. And you can even sort it by recency, right? So with this Jonathan Taylor news, he's dropping like a stone. You know, he's falling really, really far because he's going to be on the PUP list to open the year. So one of the things that you can do with the average draft position list is just have that up as you're drafting. Sure, the board is going to give you a sense of generally what, you know, people are valued at. But I like having that ADP up so you can see for yourself how likely it currently is that somebody will make it to you or not.
That was my mistake. There was one of my mistakes.
It's one of them, you know, I mean, and every draft room is different, but this is just a nice little hack, especially if you're thinking about, you know, nominating guys towards the end. It can be really helpful tool just to see based on ADP some folks that might have slipped through the cracks.
All right. So let's real quick inform people. And if you're looking on YouTube right now, you see the number to text the king if you need actual help. 919-306-8598. That's 919-306-8598. And you can check out Groove Wagon at thatdamnwagon.com. For those who don't know, CBD seltzers, the Groove Wagon.
Delta 8.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it gives you a buzz. So if you check us out at That Damn Wagon, it's, you know, Raleigh's low-cal Cali sober beverage company. So for those of you who have some drafts coming up or really just generally kicking it, hanging out, you know, you don't always have to choose booze to catch a buzz. Microdosed, sessionable, give you a nice little pleasing sensation.
And you can order those online?
You can text in order too.
Okay.
Also, you can go to places like Butcher's Market out in Wake Forest.
Give me that cross promo, baby.
Oh, love the cross promo. Pelagic and Riparian, State of Beer, Rochambeau, Luella's out in Durham. And also text me and let me know what bottle shops we should be in. We're always trying to find the latest and greatest places to get into. Oh, Tasty. I got to shout out Tasty because the cool dude who was texting about rookie wide receivers was like, oh man, I know Johnny over at Tasty. I'll go holler at him. So that's another great one.
All right, now I think this is where we go astray in my snake draft.
Yeah.
Last pick of 4, I go George Kittle because I can start 2 TEs.
It's a little galaxy brained, man.
Okay.
I mean, even as so you can start a ton of flexes in this, yeah.
You can start a second tight end instead of a 4th receiver.
Okay.
So this is over the 4th receiver.
And you are removing other good tight end options from the player pool.
Correct. So I could trade potentially.
You could trade, and also, honestly, it's just always nice. Part of the advantage of actually having good players at the onesie position, especially tight end, is, man, every single year, tight end ends up becoming just a bleak wasteland. So week in and week out, you're going to be playing somebody who very likely has just whatever they found under the couch.
I was going to say, as long as I'm not playing Kelsey or Andrews, I feel like I have an advantage at that position.
And that's nice, man. Especially if Waller and or Kittle, hell, a lot of people would.
Kittle with Purdy was back to old Kittle. That's what also influenced me.
And he definitely has that in his range of outcomes to have a pretty good campaign. So I don't hate that.
Okay.
I'm very curious what some of these other teams are, though, because again, this is a market game, right? And,
that's actually a question I have for you, because I introduced to this group the idea of putting in a blind bid for the number 1 for your pick, for your choice of picks in the first round. So it used to be just an automated first round pick. And I said, hey, here's an easy way to add a little money to the pot. You make 1 bid. I don't outbid you. I just submit 1 bid. And if I bid $76, I ended up with the first pick, my choice of picks. I took the first overall pick, but I felt like I was in the wrong end of the draft, if you will. The guy who's best in this league, I'll show you his team. And he's the guy. I kept looking at his team when he was picking, going, I knew who he was going to pick because he's really good and he wins this league regularly. And I was like, damn it, I wish I was there. He took Kelsey with his first pick.
A cultured
but he
fella.
had like the 7th pick, and it's like, yep, you had the right pick. Lamar Jackson is on his team. He has Diggs on his team. So I just felt like I was in the wrong spot all draft. Does that make any sense? Do you ever?
It does make
when you are in your snake world, which I don't think you are very often.
That's the thing, dude. And not to bore the listeners who are like, but I am in snake, so shut up about auction. But again, this is just such a good illustration of why the auction format is just vastly superior. Because with Jamar Chase, when you're not bound to, take players that you feel like, oh, well, I have to because he's not going to make it back to me, when there's no such thing as back to me. And it's just a question of how much do you like the guy? And, another good example of this is the limitations of the number 1 pick that you're talking about. Those don't exist, right? Somebody could have gone well over the most expensive bid to get what they thought of as the first place dude. Some people don't like having an early draft position precisely because it can kind of limit your flexibility, having, to always be the very back and the first. That can be frustrating to sit by in the room. My preference is, forgive me. My preference in snake is almost always to have one of those middle positions.
Okay.
Because it just feels like it gives me a little bit more comfortable optionality, as opposed to feeling like, oh man, there's no chance that dude is going to make it back to me, and paying up too much for a guy that I like, who otherwise I might have been able to get. Especially in a flat year like this. And what I mean by a flat year is some years there is just no freaking doubt. There's a consensus number 1, number 2, number 3. This year, there's a pretty clear tier, I'd say. We're starting to pay up a lot more for wide receivers. That's one of the macro trends, is like you'll see Justin Jefferson, Jamar in some order, 1 and 2. You'll see Cooper Kupp, even with that hamstring injury, really high up there. But also, it just feels like generally there's there's a lot of options you could see yourself doing in the first half of the draft, which means it's usually an advantage to be a little bit later because you can let the room decide for you who you're going to end up with, you know?
All right. So before we get out of here, you're okay with it's? I can start one running back in this league and only one running back. And I went with Miles Sanders. There's a sigh. That is not a sigh of approval.
I'm a Panthers homer too. I really am, and they're gonna give him a lot of carries. I think
this is the same guy who coached Jonathan Taylor.
Which and I do like showing Perms back, especially if they see what he started to do in Philly and get him some of those pass catching routes. Also, for whatever reason, even with completely different coaching staffs, it does seem like the Panthers have been, force feeding their dudes. A lot of that was Christian, but even, some of this is pattern matching. It's not like the Jonathan Stewart years, the Jonathan Stewart D'Angelo years play that much into what the current team is doing a decade later. But I don't know. Maybe the Panthers do smash mouth it to protect Bryce a little bit. Maybe they get him involved in the passing game. To him. Exactly.
Maybe. I know we're talking to a guy who hasn't had more than 24 catches in a season, but
yeah, just I'm fine with that. Before we get out of here,
that doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement.
I mean, it's all about the market, right? What are the other options that you could have had in there? I will say one thing that has come up in East Coast Overdose, one of the highest stakes leagues in the country, quite frequently, or not quite frequently, a few times. And now there's a real drumbeat is I put myself on a ledge for Travis Etienne. I ended up paying pretty good money for him. Some people see Tank Bigsby this preseason and are like, oh, he's going to take all that goal line work. That's why they got him. I'm sticking my neck out here. Even if by ADP, you feel like you're paying up at that fourth round, even end of third round, some of the early analysis of preseason usage has started turning up. Pretty interestingly, that if you look at the percentage of goal line carries, he actually just got one with the starters last week, and you look at what they're starting to do in terms of usage, Tank got a lot of attention because he looked really good in the time he was playing.
Sure.
It's freaking preseason.
I took Tank, by the way. It was
Tank
11th round.
I'm not even knocking on him. I like that as an out, but a lot of people are looking at Travis Etienne and being like, oh, he's going to be a between the 20s trap back. He's not going to trap back just being somebody that doesn't get those high value touches. I don't know, man. I see the other way. And if this Jags offense is going to start hitting some of those ceiling outcomes, if Trevor takes a big step up and they really are looking nice, I feel that third, fourth round value that you'd be getting in Snake, I'm ending up with a ton of shares of him this year. Lord knows if that means anything. I sell weed for a living, but I'm starting to get pretty exposed to Travis Etienne.
All right, Reilly Dunn, thatdamnwagon.com. Text the king, man. Ask him. I didn't. I made a mistake. I got my first pick right. That was it. 919-306-8598. 919-306-8598. Thatdamnwagon.com. Yeah, and go to that butcher's market.
Yeah,
Double
Wake Forest, if you're out there, man.
Cross promote, baby.
Yeah.
Go get the Groove Wagon seltzers. You will definitely enjoy them. And next week, I'm going to put out a little call. We'll get some people. We'll get a little start sit action.
Love it.
My favorite. And we'll get some daily fantasy lineup stuff for next week as well.
Sure. We can talk core fours.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you, Reilly. We'll talk to you again next week. Appreciate everyone out there for listening to Picks and Pizza. Download, subscribe, do all of those things, please. 5 stars only. Positive vibes only. See you guys and enjoy your first weekend, a full weekend of college football.